Hello, welcome to the very first episode of the second season of the Mindful Introvert podcast. I'm so happy to have you here and to be starting another season completely packed with amazing guests that are coming onto the podcast to share their knowledge and share their wisdom with you so that you can have a better life. So today I have a great guest. She's called Clare Emma Wild, and she's a certified and accredited coach for quiet leaders, helping them to stop people pleasing and overcome their imposter syndrome so they can take action and enjoy the success they deserve. As well as leading senior teams and winning awards, she has bounced back from 2 periods of burnout, meaning she understands the importance of not trying to lead as others do, but instead using your strengths and supporting yourself. The blending of mindset coaching with a somatic approach tailored for the introverted, sensitive, and empathic is why her coaching is powerful for quieter people. And I have all of her details in the show notes. So go check it out after you finish listening to this amazing podcast episode.
Look, extroverts are excellent at bringing up loads and loads of ideas. And as you say, as introverts, we're like, oh my God, just calm down. But actually, what we can do as introverts is take a step back and go, okay, so given all of that, I can bring that together into a solution, which is this. But you need that time to think about it. I mean, extroverts are ace at something different, which is where the team building starts. Empathy, I don't even need to mention that, almost that emotional intelligence, both for people in the organization. Often introverts, they know what people need before they need themselves. They've thought about it, they've sensed it, they can put themselves in other people's shoes, both like your team, people you work with, as well as like your clients or customers for the thing. So, I mean, these are brilliant leadership skills: conscientiousness, self-driven, really want to do a good job, intuitive. They know when something's not right or going wrong. Maybe you won't know exactly what it is, but to go, actually that needs digging deeper a little bit.
Wait a minute. Have you heard? I have this massive news to give you. I'm interrupting this episode to introduce to you the Healing from Burnout interactive ebook that will guide you through your journey to recovery. This ebook is unlike any other, as it offers a unique and engaging experience that will help you overcome burnout and thrive. So, here are some of the features that make Healing from Burnout stand out. So there are interactive exercises. This book includes interactive exercises that will help you identify the root causes of your burnout and develop a personalized plan for recovery. These exercises are designed to be engaging and thought provoking so you can get the most out of your healing journey. And healing from burnout also includes multimedia content such as videos, meditation, visualization practices, and journaling prompts that will help you grow and learn. This content is designed to be transformational and inspiring so you can stay motivated throughout your journey. And this ebook is written by an expert in the field of mindfulness and abundance, me, who has helped countless individuals overcome burnout and find inner peace. And I did it for myself too. With Healing from Burnout, you can benefit from my expertise and guidance. And there's also flexibility. So, Healing from Burnout is designed to be flexible. So, you can start your healing journey at any time and at your own pace. The book itself has a certain way for you to go about it, but you can absolutely change and do whatever you like, jump to whatever exercise you prefer. And whether you have a few minutes or a few hours, you can work through the ebook at your own speed, and all exercises are under 30 minutes. So there's no excuse for lack of time. Don't let burnout control your life any longer. Take the first step towards healing and order Healing from Burnout today. With this interactive ebook, you can start your journey to recovery and thrive. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Mindful Introvert podcast. This podcast helps you to get inspiration to manifest a life in alignment with your true, confident, and intuitive being. I'm Jo from mindfulintrovert.com, an inner peace and abundance coach, and my purpose here is really to help you slow down, look inwards, and create a more peaceful life by learning to trust your intuition and exploring your spirituality at a soul level. Ready to be empowered? Let's get on with the episode. Hello. Welcome to today's episode. I'm here with a very special guest. Today we're here joined by Clare Wild, and she's going to explain why quiet leaders are so powerful and why we shouldn't really try to lead as an extrovert and be authentic to ourselves. So thank you for joining me here, Claire. I'm really happy to be here with you today. Would you like to tell everyone a little bit more about yourself?
Thanks, Joana, and thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here. So my name's Dr. Clare Wild. I'm a coach for quiet leaders, and I help them overcome their imposter syndrome and stop people pleasing so that they can, let that go and enjoy the success that they deserve, which I really believe in. And I think that quiet leaders are exactly what we're missing in the world, and that they can change the world.
Yeah, I love that. And it's something that it's not often discussed, is it? Because we see these big CEOs, these big people so high up in the corporate world that they're very assertive and very strong in their energy. And sometimes for an introvert, that can be too draining, isn't it? Um, so, how exactly can people release these people pleasing tendencies and lead within their own energy?
I think one of the first things, and you're quite right, it's really easy to think, oh, there's only one way of leading and that's how it is, and it's how the person did it before or how they're doing it now. And there just so isn't. I've got just people that I respect so much as leaders through my career that have been quieter. Maybe it's just the area that I've been in, but within government as a vet, an epidemiologist, maybe. But I think the first thing is thinking about what are the strengths when you're an introvert. What are the strengths of an introvert? I work with obviously quiet leaders, which can bring in introversion. It can bring other reasons that people are quiet. So also highly sensitive people I work with quite a lot. I think about half of introverts are highly sensitive as well, from the figures I found. Did some hasty maths, and empaths as well. And there's so much in that can bring huge amounts of strengths to leadership. So, for instance, great listeners. Well, who doesn't need to be listened to, like really listened to in a team or at work? What do you think? And not to be told or to be answered or to be disagreed with, but really listen to. And that works both inside and outside organizations. Introverts think deeply. They come up with great ideas, reflective, insightful, and perceptive. Really think through decisions. So, they really think through decisions so they're the right decisions, and they think about them from so many different angles and put patterns together that other people don't come up with. It's the word creative around introverts and sensitive people is like, well, that's really hard to translate into leadership. What on earth does that mean? But for me, that means seeing patterns and bigger picture thinking. So, look, extroverts are excellent at bringing up loads and loads of ideas. And as you say, as introverts, we're like, oh my God, just calm down. But actually what we can do as introverts is take a step back and go, okay, so given all of that, I can bring that together into a solution, which is this. But you need that time to think about it. I mean, extroverts are ace at something different, which is where the team building starts. Empathy, I don't even need to mention that, almost that emotional intelligence. Both for people in the organization, often introverts, they know what people need before they need themselves. They've thought about it, they've sensed it, they can put themselves in other people's shoes, both like your team, people you work with, as well as like your clients or customers for the thing. So, I mean, these are brilliant leadership skills: conscientiousness, self-driven, really want to do a good job, intuitive. They know when something's not right or going wrong. Maybe you won't know exactly what it is, but to go, actually, that needs digging deeper a little bit. And that's really, really important. And these are all ace leadership skills. The other thing, which can be seen, okay, this is a bit of a double-edged sword, but I think this is really important, is that introverts tend to want to take a step back from the limelight. Now, obviously, that can be taken to excess, but what that means is, what I think happens is quieter leaders, introverted leaders, really genuinely want to empower and develop their teams, because they're not there to go progress themselves or push themselves forward, but to go, okay, how can I help these brilliant people that I work with, that work for me, do better, empower, develop, be promoted. All of those genuine leadership qualities, I think you can so undersell them. And then, that connection, the collaboration, making great decisions, developing people, that all comes together. And I think it's really key to own that. And I was reading an article in Harvard Business Review, and it was something about, even beyond the personal bit, about organizing, who would want to waste this kind of talent, when they were talking about retention, in organizations, that it's actually a really big problem. And why is it that people leave? Well, it's not about money or benefits. It's actually about what they think is, it's a sense of belonging, feeling valued by the leaders and trusted and valued colleagues. Well, those are the kind of things that an introverted leader can really develop. That's a strength, it's innate. And it's so easy, I think, to then be focused on what you can't do. It's that extrovert stuff, and not all of that stuff I've just talked about. And that, I think, is when quiet leaders start that imposter syndrome, because not only have you felt different for a long time as an introvert, or maybe more sensitive, but also you then think, well, I can't do that. But you don't focus on what you can do. So I think that's the start, is really looking at hard, what is it I can do innately? What are my skills and what are my strengths?
Yeah, I love that. And I love the explanation that you gave with the all the skills that introverts bring to the table. And I think that to be a leader that is more on the quiet side and is empowered, it takes a lot of courage to go against the grain and say, you know what, I am not like these people, and that's okay. And I can be different and I can lead the way I feel that is more aligned with my values and what I believe in, and still produce amazing results and bring the team together, and everything will be okay. So one thing that you mentioned that I would like you to maybe give a little bit of a description for the audience that might not be familiar with these concepts is the highly sensitive people. So if you could give a little bit of a description what that is, and you spoke about empaths as well. So for those that are not familiar with these concepts, and they are so associated with introversion, would you be okay to explain what that is?
Yeah, totally. Thanks, Joanna. So it's quite hard to find figures. So I did a bit of maths yesterday, actually, because I was thinking, actually, how many introverts are actually highly sensitive? But from what I can see, there's about 30 to 50% of the population, depending on what you look at and where, introverts. And about half of them are termed to be highly sensitive. Empaths, I don't know, but so there's a lot of work. So the term highly sensitive person is based on Elaine Aron's work, which it's been around for quite some time now, but it's all based around being sensitive to environmental stimuli. So, but it can be, I find as well, not only external stimuli, but also your internal emotions as well. So you might find a highly sensitive person may be very sensitive to bright lights, sound, smell, that kind of thing. And I suppose in similar ways to introverts, that can become overstimulating, and it can become too much. So, with introverts especially, and I'm thinking within the leadership angle, things like when we're constantly on it with people all the time, we don't take that time to rest, to have that break, that becomes too much and overstimulating. For highly sensitive people, that's any kind of environmental stimuli might be what then makes them overstimulated. So it is just that it's not crying. What it's not getting really upset all the time or crying really easily. It is that environmental stimuli. It's the sensory processing that can become quite difficult. So some people might find that actually some clothing, they can't bear it. I have a trouble with wool. I love wearing wool, but there's only certain ones. If it's a bit scratchy, I'm like, no, I can't do it. So there's that. So that's one aspect of it. There's a whole load of work by Elaine Aron, and there's a wonderful Scandinavian writer as well on being highly sensitive. And the empath side is the sensitivity to feelings. So they can be more empathic as highly sensitive, but then there's the sensitivity to feelings, and there's being empathic in terms of putting yourself in someone else's shoes, which you can do. And introverts are brilliant at it. Highly sensitive people are really good at it. Empaths, you tend to feel it. So that could be quite difficult in terms of understanding, what is my feeling and what is theirs. And so that's almost taking empathy to a higher level, as it were. So again, a lot of introverts may find that this is the case for them. It can become, certainly if there are strong emotions and you feel them, you may want to avoid. And this is sometimes when I think people pleasing can become more of an issue for quieter people, because you're either empathic or an empath. So either you can put yourself so easily in their shoes, or you actually physically feel that emotion. And we know we have mirror neurons, and we can do that anyway to an extent. But then if you're going to say no to somebody or put yourself first in certain circumstances, and that person is disappointed or irritated momentarily, there's that, oh God, I don't want to feel that. I don't want them to feel that, because I can feel it. So not only do I feel the pleasure that they have, but the disappointment if I don't do what they want. Sometimes I think can be why we instantly just say yes. Yes. Oh, good, they're happy. And then you think about the consequences. Oh, I'm not happy. I didn't actually want to do that. I meant no. Oh God. You deal with that later, because the instant thing is, yes, everything's okay. Everything's okay.
Okay, yeah, thank you for those explanations. I think they were really, really beautifully said. And it is, I think, one from my own personal experience. So I consider myself to be an empath and a highly sensitive person as well. And it took me a long time to understand this about myself. And it took for me to see these concepts on social media, to recognize that I was like that, and find that validation. And I have a boyfriend that is extremely extroverted. And so one time we went to a car meet, and it was, you can imagine, a bunch of people around, cars, very loud, and a lot of environmental stimuli, like you were saying. And I didn't know anyone, so it was completely new social setting. And I took a moment and I just stayed behind, and just alone, just with myself, just recouping. And he took notice and he said, "Oh, are you overstimulated? Is that it? Like, do you need a moment?" And I said, "Yeah, that's it." Because that's exactly that communication that I had to have with him. He doesn't understand. He cannot understand what I feel, but he understands that I need a moment, and he understands the signs of that overstimulation, and he respects it. So I think it's very important for introverts and quiet leaders to also have that open line of communication, um, with the extroverted people that don't really understand it. And for us to not try to have the other person understand, but to have them respect. That's the only thing that we can ask for, is respect of how we feel and our boundaries. Um, and I think that goes hand in hand with that people pleasing that you were mentioning, because yes, we want to please others, but it starts to catch up with you if it's completely out of alignment with you, and then you build resentments, you build all of this frustration around people, situations, with yourself, because you're not being truly authentic to your needs. So I think having that communication and boundaries are very important as well, to have this work beautifully and everyone be in harmony. So my question now is, because you were saying about that a lot of people have this um, characteristic about them. So how can we, as like leaders or even as co-workers, how can we um, accommodate for these people in the workplace so that everyone is in this harmony?
Okay. I'd just like to pause to say, I just love that, what you just said. And I will answer the question just about you don't need people. And I think that's just so important. So I just love to pick it up.
Mhm.
You don't need people to understand everything about you or feel that way or go, yeah, it's a bit much for me. You don't need that. You just need them to respect you. And I think that's really important. And I will come to that because I think it is something really important. When we're asking for this kind of thing in the workplace, I think it's very easy to go, oh, they don't understand, nobody understands, or I need this to just to function. It's like, no, to be at my best, it's how to frame that. If you're going to have this conversation, then I would definitely practice it and go, actually, it's about me being at my best. It's about
Mm.
me sustainably showing up as a great part of this organization, as a great leader, for me to carry on doing it, be energized and be at my best. And to do that, I need blah, blah, blah. So I just love it. I just love it. And I think it's a beautiful way to walk into this. So I think there's a number of ways that trying to lead as an extrovert, or as I call them, pseudo extrovert, because you're not one, but you're trying to show up as one because you think it's the norm,
Mm.
it can really become a problem. So we've talked about people pleasing. You just say yes. So you say yes to work, you say yes to your boss, you say yes to stuff for your team. So you're feeling stressed because you've got too much, you're completely overcommitted, overworked, you stay late. If you're guilty because your team's got too much on because you've said yes for them, that's another dynamic. Overstimulation, back-to-back meetings, rapidly asked to make decisions at meetings. You've no idea what the meeting's for. You turn up, load of information, load of people, load of ideas, make a decision now. Well, for an introvert, you're like, oh God, okay. Open plan offices, this whole draw back into offices now. The whole presenteeism thing, you have to just be there. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
how productive you are, you're just there. So there's all of that aspects, I think, for introverts. There's also the kind of perceived pressure. So people pleasing comes in again about socializing after work. If you have, sorry, the dog's Pop is just joining in, saying
Wants to
yes.
be a guest as well. It's like, can
Yeah,
be a
she does,
guest in the
but
podcast.
she's a total extrovert dog. She'd socialize after work, not a problem. Like meetings all day, socialize after work. But I think going out after work, if you're at a conference, going out in the evening after a conference, something like that, that just is the norm.
Mm.
So you go and but actually you don't, as an introvert, you probably don't want to be doing that unless you've had a day that's quiet. If you've been on it all day, socializing after work, are you actually needing that, or do you need some downtime, whole
Mm.
small talk and networking as well?
Yeah.
And I've talked about imposter syndrome, and I think um, that whole internal world as well can become an issue because we start blaming ourselves. It must be me. It must be about me. Why can't I do this? So I need to step up, do it more, drink more coffee, whatever it is. And I think this is where some of the playing small comes in as well, in that it becomes a bit of a circle.
Mm-hmm.
So you think you don't speak up in these meetings because there's a load going on. So you don't actually give your views. And I think as introverts, we tend to think, well, there's no point sharing anything until we've got to the end, until we've got something amazing to share and we've thought it all through. And so we don't speak up. And then people think, well, we don't speak up. So, and I don't want to interrupt anybody. And then if you do say something, you sort of feel like you need to spend a long time explaining it, and the extroverts just turn off. So I think there's a bit of a circle in here. A bit of a circuit where then you think, well, I did speak up, I explained what I was talking about, and everyone glazed over. So what was that about? Whereas, thinking about a room full of extroverts, how can you just be a little bit perhaps more concise? I'm terrible at this, by the way. I just witter on for ages, but how can you do that? So there's recognizing what is it, I think, in all of that is an issue for you. As a co-worker, as a leader, what is it that you're doing that's potentially causing overstimulation? Maybe it's all of it, I don't know. And I think then that's the awareness piece, and then acceptance, as you were saying, Joanna, that this is who I am. These are my values. This is who I am. And if you haven't done that work on values, that is so important. If you're going to step up and do something different and be, as you said, this is hugely brave stuff, because it's challenging the norm. Maybe in a big organization where everyone does it differently. So if you know your values, why you're here, what it is you want to be a leader for, what you think a brilliant leader is, that makes it so much easier because you can come back to it and go, okay, I'm going to be really, really brave here today. But actually, this is why I'm a leader. This is why I want to make a difference. This is what it's all about. This is the bigger picture. Take that breath.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I like that because, and um, I think what really has helped me and what can help a lot of introverts as well is first recognize that you might be an introvert, because for many years I would think that I was an extrovert or I wanted to be an extrovert because I'm not shy. And that is something that I've associated with being an introvert. I am not shy. Come across quite confident. And so when people learn that I'm an introvert, they get confused. How? Because you're not shy. And I think that's really a myth about introverts. We're not shy. A lot of us are not shy. And so it's also having that awareness that you just need that downtime to recharge your batteries and come back to yourself. And you were saying about after a conference, going socializing and whatnot. It is important to also have that self-awareness of your own social battery. At the same time, I can say that it is also important to do some sort of agreement with yourself, because so I once went to a conference that was 4 days, and it was very long days, very physically draining and emotionally draining. But I said to myself, this is this week, then I can recover.
yeah,
So I'm going all in, I'm socializing, I'm giving all of myself, and then I will recover next week. So it's also an agreement with yourself, of understanding that it is okay to be drained for a little bit because it's
yeah,
worth it. And then you can get back to the way you like living. So definitely self-awareness, and that, I don't know how to say it, but that agreement with yourself, right? Like that being flexible and being lenient with a certain time that might be a little bit more draining, and then allowing you time to recover. That can be helpful. So I would say, I would ask, what are some of the um, advice that you have for extroverts uh, that deal with these quiet leaders, because we talked a little bit about why is it important and uh, what people's strengths are as quiet leaders. But now I wanted to see it from the other perspective, because maybe we have people listening to us that are extroverts and they are not aware of this dynamic, and they work with a leader that is a little bit more quiet and they don't quite like them, because that's the thing, we like people that are like us or that we want to be like. So if we have a leader that is a little bit more on the quiet side and we cannot build that rapport, what can be an advice for an extrovert to deal with this person?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And I loved, it's absolutely right. One of the pieces of advice in terms of if you're going to do something like that conference and go all in, plan the next, look at your weeks together. So if actually that's going to be really tough. Do I want to do that or do I not? And if I do, what's the cost? What am I going to do about that afterwards? Take that rest, because I'm an introvert. I need that time. I love it. Love it. Extroverts. So yes, it can be a little bit tricky. So I think there's a little bit of thinking from an introvert's perspective. How do I work? How do I communicate better with extroverts without compromising who I am or draining myself? But you're quite right. And for me, extroverts working with introverts, the biggest gift they can give is time in one way or another. And I think I suppose the one bit to understand about introverts is that they can't help it. Their brains are different. As an introvert, our brains are different. They're made differently. They're wired differently. They work differently. They use and preference different neurotransmitters. This isn't they're not being awkward or slow, or they need the time. And I think understanding what the strengths are that we've talked about, communicating that actually a slow decision is when you don't have to make the mess, you don't have to clear the mess up of. And having been someone that clears up a lot, as in the past, when you start clearing up messes, they take a lot longer than the decisions that are made. So I think it's about time. And really thinking about actually what is it that a team of introverts and extroverts can bring together, because this isn't about introverts are best leaders ever and we'll just marginalize extroverts. Actually, there's a brilliant team here. So what is it that an introvert can bring to the conversation? And yes, they're going to frustrate you sometimes you frustrate them. That's okay, and for me, one of the things they bring is the extroverts in my team. They push me forward and pull me forward sometimes, let's be fair. Whereas I'm the one going, oh, hang on, have you thought about that? Have you thought about that? And just avert some of the things that could have gone wrong if they dive straight in. So I think there's a real great and extroverts, they think out loud a lot very quickly and they process verbally. And as an introvert, we might not have to participate in that, but we absorb all of that, see those patterns and come up with the solutions. So there's brilliant ways of, sort of, cross-fertilizing, whatever you call it, of just working together and going, actually, as a team, we could be amazing. Yeah. So in terms of an extrovert, I think one of the big things, and time is it all the time. For me, it's about, maybe you do need to take some breaks in the day. More than extroverts, back-to-back meetings are, I find, and I know a lot of my clients and colleagues find that, you're constantly on the go from one thing to another. You barely thought about or processed the feelings, thoughts of whatever's gone before, and you're straight into the next one. You've got to make a decision. So not doing back-to-back meetings. And the meetings themselves, I've touched on it before, but I think one of the things that introverts we struggle with is you come to a meeting, there's no agenda. I'm going to go extreme here. There's no agenda. There's a huge amount of information, new information. Maybe it's quite a senior meeting, so you don't feel quite relaxed with these people. There's loads of new information, and actually you've got to make a decision there and then. And it's a rush meeting because everybody's got stuff to go and do. So, just make a decision there. If you want the best out of an introvert, then firstly, a longer meeting is great. But if you can have that, either have the agenda and the things they need to read ahead of time, or say, right, everybody go away, we'll make a decision, we'll give it 12 overnight or 24 hours, whatever it is. That's a huge gift for introverts. It allows them time to process it. And as I say, that will then add in not only the extroverts who've made the mind up there and then, and they're not interested in going back or reflecting on it, but also you've then got the introvert views, which are really well considered and thought through. So you've got that brilliant straight away, and that, I've thought about this a bit more, and you could refine this idea by doing A, B, C, and D. So it's about that kind of teamwork stuff.
Yeah.
And I think for me, those are the really big things, as well as being okay with introverts not being in the office the whole time, trusting them to do their work. Because let's face it, introverts tend to be conscientious, driven. They'll just get their head down and get on with it. They can work on their own loads and be so productive. So not available when they do deep work, when they really need to get their heads down. And then working some time at home, not being all back in the office. So I think those are the key things for me.
Yeah. Oh, and I love the reframing around it's not that quiet leaders are the only ones that should exist. We can all coexist nicely and create this nice team with extroverts, with ambiverts, whatever. It's important to have that diversity within the team, but with mutual respect and giving that time. And I really enjoyed the reframe you did around the time, because it takes a lot of time to clear up messes. Yes, quick thinking is important, but actually taking the time to make the better decision sometimes is more worth than being quick on your feet in the long run. So I really appreciate that. And then I would say, so we were talking about how we get drained sometimes. So what are some of the tips that you have for introverts to protect their energy? Especially because in the world, I was going to say corporate world, but in the world, sometimes it's not ideal to be connected to our emotions and our feelings. Sometimes we need to have that more approach of go, 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 right? And that sometimes can drain our energy. So, how can we protect our energy or recharge? So, what are your tips to either protect or recharge?
Okay. And it's a good distinction, I think, because sometimes, you could get into this. I'm sorry, I love that. I'm getting my introvert heads going on this now. So yeah, I love that, because I think there's kind of almost an edge to protect. It's almost that, well, I just won't feel. That would be great. I just won't feel anything. That'd be fine. Or I just won't interact with those people because I find them really draining. Well, that's not necessarily a reality in the work world. In your personal life, maybe you have a bit more ability to say, okay, I'm going to limit my time with that person. But I mean, you can still do it in the corporate world. But do you want to not be sensitive, or dampen down that introversion, be that pseudo extrovert, or not? I mean, there are ways, as I say, of doing it. Maybe there are people that really do drain you, and you say to yourself, actually, I can be in a meeting with them for about half an hour one-to-one before I just find myself like I can't connect with myself. I'm just so spinning. I find that really difficult. Well, maybe you can limit meetings to them to a certain amount of time. Take time after meetings that you find quite draining, or before them. If you've driven a long way to a meeting, take a breather beforehand. Allow yourself 10-15 minutes in your calendar. It can be really quick just to go outside and take some deep breaths, just to come back to the present, into your body, what we call grounding, but just back to the present, so that you're here again, you're not spinning. It's like, okay, I can breathe, everything's okay now. And then you go into it. And then kind of the same afterwards, if you can schedule that in, breathe, reflect. I saw once, just as an anecdote, I was in a really good leadership course, and one of the facilitators in the breaks, he explained right at the beginning that actually he needs time to process things. So during breaks, he wouldn't be interacting with people. He would just go on his own in the corner and just reflect. And that's what he did every time. He explained why he needed it. And that's what he did. He would go get his drink and then just go and sit. And you could see him almost like I can't remember what the thing, where he'd go and think and reflect and let everything, all the emotions, all the input that he'd had, just process. And I imagine I didn't know that have the vocabulary then, but I imagine he was an introvert and highly sensitive, if not an empath as well. So building that time in and being okay with it. And I think that also works for regeneration and recharging. And I think you touched on it beautifully, Joanna. What choices can you make around what you're going to do, and what are the payoffs of it? It's really important to do something that works for you in terms of your body and your mental health around work. So maybe you enjoy yoga, maybe you don't, maybe meditation, just to calm the nervous system, getting out into nature, that tends to really help us as introverts. And I think for me, it's about weaving those things into your day so that it's by default, not, oh God, everything's awful, I feel completely overwhelmed and overstimulated, and now I don't know what to do. Because I think that's a mistake I made in the past, was I am now completely, I don't know what to do, and I'm in a bit of a what now what? And I do have a bit of a go-to for that, but I can go to that in a minute. But finding those things by default so that they become practice, because like everything else in the world, with your brain, the more you practice it, the more you can benefit from it, and it becomes default and easier, especially maybe if that day is involved, you've actually got decision fatigue because you've been going from meeting to meeting and you made 100 different decisions. And one of the things for me at the moment I'm really trying to do at the end of the day is to take 15 minutes to just sit, not do the washing or walk the dogs or do whatever the other things are that you haven't done all day, or you got home, you finished, and just sit with a cup of tea and just sit and let it all wash, let the emotions come through, let the thoughts, let the processing happen, and then go on to the next thing. Because I think it's easy for us just to keep going and keep going and keep going. So I think there's a lot around this of giving yourself permission, and what works for me won't work for you. There's loads of amazing resources, and you will know what helps you come back. Nature's really important to us, as I say. Just sitting in nature, I know there's a lot of research just looking at a leaf, what they call the fractal patterns, when like a leaf divides or a branch divides, is really quite soothing. So just looking or hearing or feeling what's underneath you, just taking that little bit of time, even if it, like it is now, absolutely raining,
is it raining there? Oh, here is nice and bright.
Yeah, totally. It's absolutely tipping it down. But sometimes, that's an amazing sound. Can you open the window or the door and just hear that rain coming down? To come back to that and come back to the present moment, to nature. It isn't, rather than thinking about what happened or thinking about the future, come back to now. How do I feel?
Yeah, I love that. And I can't remember where I saw this, or I don't know the source of this study, but I once learned about this study that they had people given a choice between sit in a room without their phones, without anything. So just sit in a room for 15 minutes and just simply do nothing or meditate or do whatever, just sit with themselves for 15 minutes in silence, or receive, I think it was 5 electric shocks or one, I can't remember, electric shocks And people, majority of people chose the electric shock and just leave. oh it, Receiving electric shocks over sitting for 15 minutes by themselves. This is just wild. To me. So it just goes to show that people are not comfortable sitting with their own thoughts too long. And that tells a lot about society, I think. So it's important to, as you were saying, give ourselves that permission, um, to not feel guilty that we're resting or taking a moment, because it's still time well spent processing information, and energy and emotions. um, and I deal with a lot of high achiever people, go-getters that sometimes struggle to sleep or think that sleep is not as important because they just want to produce. And the other day I was listening to the Mel Robbins podcast, and she had a lady um, coming in talking about the importance of sleep and how sleep is what's the word? Yeah, it restores your health, and it's very important. It's the same amount of work as when you're awake. And so I think that's also an important reframe for people to learn that even when you're resting, quote unquote, doing nothing, you're still doing something. Your brain
Mm.
is still working, is you're still producing in a way that you are cleaning up the bad energies that drain you, and you're allowing yourself that time that you would like others to give you. You're allowing yourself that time for feeling better. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with this. I just thought I'd share.
I think that's lovely. And I love, and that's the thing. I think if you do find, even if you're as an introvert, I found it really difficult to be with myself for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
What can help is moving at the same time.
Love that.
Just go walking.
Mm,
Just to walk, take
yeah.
notice of what's around you, what you can smell, what you can see, what you can feel under your feet, or yoga or qigong or anything that's kind of a mindful movement where you're moving
Mm,
through. So, as I say, if sitting with it is too hard, and actually that's not giving you're not reflecting, you just wanting to get the hell
enjoying
out, to be
yourself.
honest. Um, then doing something else, something that moves you. Swimming is wonderful.
Mm,
Anything like that, so that you still, like you say, you might be, you're sleeping, you're resting, you're moving, you're still doing stuff.
yeah.
You're processing. As introverts, we're making connections, we're putting all those things together, all those ideas that have come to us in the day, and we're probably, because we're amazing, we're probably taking an idea that's come today with something that came 3 weeks ago,
Yeah.
putting that together to come up with something. It's like, oh right, that's the way that works. Well, in that case we could do this. But that isn't happening consciously necessarily, as you say.
Mm,
And you think, I'm just wasting my time. What's the point of sleep? What's the point of rest? What's the point of taking a break? Well, that's why, as well as the fact that whatever you do, you come back to it, you can do a heck of a lot, probably in half the time or less than you could have done just powering on through.
yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I need to take a nap, and I can feel it that my body is asking me to take a nap, but I say, no, I just need to get through this project. But then when I actually allow myself to take a nap, I take half as long to actually complete the project. So it's very important to, and I think it's also because we're quite good at planning overall. I would say we're quite good at planning because, as you were saying, people that are a little bit more on the quiet side, introverts, they take that time to prepare and think of the best solution. So we are quite good at planning. So it's also important for us to see, to envision the future, and realize that if we actually take that moment to nap, if we take that moment to just sit with our tea or read a book, it's going to be of value to us
Yes.
in the long run. So that's important. But it is sometimes challenging, giving ourselves grace to do all of this
This
when
is
we,
brave. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
It's,
when we live in a world that tells us that we need to produce, that we need to be fast, that we need to be loud, that we need to be this and this and this.
it is,
Sometimes it is raining.
it's courageous stuff, I think.
Yeah.
I really think this is courageous stuff. You could tell yourself, your inner critic, you could tell yourself, oh, for goodness sake, it's so small taking a breath, blah, blah. It's not, this is courageous to say, actually, this is me, this is who I am, this is to be at my very best. Here, these are my strengths. To be at my best, this is what I need. And it's not what the majority need. And in fact, it's not what the majority need. And it may even be what other introverts and highly sensitives and empaths are frightened to ask for. So I think that's the other key bit, is actually, the kind of inspiration that people take from your podcast and the work that you do, Joanna. If each of us individually in the world, in our workplaces, as leaders, as co-workers, as whoever it is, actually give ourselves permission, well, someone else will
Yeah.
see that and say, well, hang on, they're like me. I
Mm.
get like that.
Mhm.
I think like that. Maybe I could give myself that permission. And then that person does it. And then that person does it. And I
Yeah.
mean, ripple effects, you never
Yeah.
see the end of them.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And I think so, and you were mentioning about what I do with my podcast. And I obviously, my audience tends to be a little bit more on the introvert side. And those people are not, they're more of lurkers, right? So they consume the content, but it's very rare that they will come and message you and say, oh, this and that. But you need to keep going. And that's, I think, the beauty of being a quiet leader that is sure of yourself, because you need to keep going despite not having any external validation. You need to give yourself that internal validation saying, is what feels right for me. This is what I believe in. And there is a very high chance that I am impacting and inspiring people's lives, even if I don't have anything to show for it. So, gotta keep going, gotta keep true north and follow it. So I love everything that you said. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have and you need to share?
I think just, I don't have anything that I had that I wanted to share, but I think just what you just said there, I think that is really important, even if no matter who you are as an introvert out there in the world, if you are impacting your people, you won't get that validation. Or importantly, you'll get bits. And they're probably going to be, I find anyway, when I do get this kind of feedback, it's when you did that thing, which I don't even remember virtually, that thing, you inspired me or gave me permission to, or enabled me, empowered me. And it's so important to take that and think, like you've just said, actually, the majority of introverts are never, ever going to say that. Write that down, pin it on your wall. For that one person, I don't have the figures, but maybe 10, maybe 20 other people have seen that or something similar and gone, okay, they lead with integrity. They do what they say. They really lead. I want to be like that. Or actually, I can do that. I can do that thing. Or they've given me belief in myself or anything like that. So if anyone says it, write it down, because there
Yeah.
will be so many quiet compliments you'll never hear. And especially if you've got an element of imposter syndrome, thinking I am different, what on earth am I doing? And
Mhm.
take it, pin it, as I say, write it, pin it on your wall. 12 things I'm proud of. Have a little, have your make yourself a book or a piece of paper or anything with these compliments on, what so that you can refer to that when, as you say, you just go, well, is this helping? Am I doing, what's the
Mm.
impact I'm having in the world?
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm pushing water uphill. So
Yeah.
I think that's so important, like I forgot the name of it now, but like a little success board,
I
for
love
yourself.
that. Yeah. I love that. Especially because when we do receive those compliments or that feedback, is very meaningful because these people that maybe went out of their way to out of
Yeah.
their comfort zone to share the impact in their lives that you had is extremely meaningful feedback. So
Yeah.
you want to hold on to it and you want to celebrate it. So even if it's just one or two, you want to celebrate it.
Yes.
So I
Because it
love
is a
that.
gift. Yeah, you're right. That's a gift someone's given you. It's really important actually that it has taken something, it's taken some energy and vulnerability for them to step up and say thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So how can people find you? How can people work with you and connect with you?
So they can find me on, I know you're going to share the links, Joanna.
Yes,
They can find me
on
on
the show notes.
LinkedIn. That's where
Yeah.
I'm most active. I'm also on Facebook as well. And I have my website, but LinkedIn is where I'm most active. So catch me on LinkedIn, and get in contact with me there or via my website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to say your website name? Just I obviously show I will share everything in the show notes, but do you want to say your website so people
Yeah,
listen?
so it's Clare Emma Wild. So that's CLARE without an I, Emma Wild .com. Really easy. And Dr. Clare Wild, Dr. Clare Emma Wild on LinkedIn.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I will share everything in the show notes. Make sure that you go and you connect with our amazing guest that is so wise and shared all of this amazing insights into why being quiet is an empowering thing and we can be amazing leaders. So watch out for us. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciated having you here and share your wisdom and your kindness and your nurturing aspect with the audience.
Thank you, Joanna. It's been lovely to chat to you.
Thank you.